Welcome to the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast. Youth ministries rise and fall on the volunteers. So we are here to encourage and equip you. Join the conversation as we tackle the practical questions you are asking so you can help the next generation know Jesus.
Episode 136 of the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast. Welcome back. We've got Lisette. My name's Jeremy, and we are diving into part 3 of this little series. Lisette, how you guys feeling today, talking about our programs?
Come on. Hey, Lisette, I don't know about you, but this conversation gets me super excited because I just know if we can put some good frameworks together, this can make such a difference in like the culture of your youth ministry. And I really love the idea that we can kind of become, think through some of these small details that can have a pretty big impact on moving us in the direction we want to go. When we get intentional, it can be so powerful for us. So I'm really excited about this.
Me too. And I just think you're doing them anyway. So why not leverage them to use them to actually maximize what you're trying to do, right? Like make everything better.
Love it.
So you might as well. Yeah,
that's so good.
And we know that in light of, if you're listening to this podcast live, you might be in a different kind of space with your program, depending on where, restrictions are at. So bank this one and refer back to it as your program continues to shift over the coming days, months, and weeks. If you're listening to this in the future, hey, we had something happen. It was a little disease thing that spread around. You should Google it. It was significant. Okay, so let's talk about games time. So we've already done check-in, we've done drop-off, we've done check-in, welcome, and now we're thinking about games. And so, Sid, tee us up. When we think about the games in our youth ministry, there's different types of games, right? There's different categories that this might show up in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm thinking about the categories and kids coming in, there's a few things I want to say. We've moved through the check-in, like you said, Jer, and this next part, you can put it, depending on how you want to run your program, how big your ministry is, or what you're thinking about. For me, in our organization, I had multiple volunteers that were running small groups. So we had kind of this passive time of the check-in where we had activities kids could just enter into. It wasn't something going in, you had to wait until it restarted. So I think we talked about that last podcast. People can check that out. So now after that, now we have our massive kids. So that could be either, hey, I'm a small group. I've got my 5 to 7 kids. That's my youth ministry. I'm like at my drop-in and I've got my, 15 to 20 kids who have come for the drop-in. Or I'm in a large organization and we've got our, 60 students and our 20 volunteers, and basically we're there. We've got critical mass. So then for me, I'm going, okay, how do we celebrate that we're all together. Let's get started. Let's have a great shared experience. We want our students to feel like invited. I think, Lisette, you had a couple of words in terms of what we wanted to shoot for with these activities, and we'll get there right away. But we found there was 3 basic kind of games. Number 1, I just mentioned it, that optional, you can come and join in. When you come there, come join in. That'd be great as you get going. That's wonderful. Number 2 is we would have like an all-play organized activity. So for us, our building was big. We did oftentimes in the winter, we would do like around the church. So turn lights off, whatever that was, but they could run around the whole church. That was always pretty fun for a lot of our kids. We thought that was cool. When it was nice, we were outside doing that sort of thing. So that's a big physical, active type game. And there's lots of reasons why I love that. And then there's the upfront game. For some of us, we're just moving up front. And so we have a leader at the front that's inviting kids into an activity. Maybe depending on your technology and what you have, those games are driven by the screen. Maybe they're driven by you, the small group leader. Maybe they're driven by a host. But basically, you have a large chunk observing, and certain kids are going to come and engage. And then there's lots of fun principles to think about when we're making that kind of thing happen. I just want to say this, and Lisette, I know you'll jump on it. Some people might think, hey, this is stupid. Like you're just entertaining kids. This isn't actually about spiritual formation. And I just want to say, I actually think that playing with our kids is really holy work. I think it says to our kids that we love you, that you're valued, that this is a place where you can be free to enjoy and have fun. I don't think there's lots of spaces where kids get to have just like really pure fun, which I think is really significant for them. And then most important, I just think it's an incredible opportunity for my small group leaders to have a great shared experience with their kids. So in theory, again, if you're a larger space, and I want to speak to you, the volunteer, I understand when you, the volunteer, you have to plan an activity for your kids. Like, that's good. I think it's better when you can plan an activity that you get to now do with your kids. That's better. I think it's best if you're in a space where someone else who maybe doesn't have time to do the relational work and is really consistent, when they can plan an activity. If you're in a larger church, you might have volunteers who are your program people. They're a little bit more random when they show up, but they can plan the activity that now you as a leader get to do with your kids. It's actually for you to experience with them. That means the most, because now you're building trust, shared experience, memories that will create kind of the climate or environment that will allow you to go deep with your kids, spiritually, emotionally, relationally. So I think there's some real value in this time. It's not just a throwaway. It's not just a gap filler. It's something that we're really intentional with. And I know, Lisette, you agree with that as well.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's such an important moment. And I think we've said that about each of these. And I probably use big words all the time. This is the most critical. Wait, no, this is. But I think this is actually a really important moment in your time together with young people, right? Because this actually has some make it or break it moments, right?
Absolutely.
If it doesn't create safety, if it doesn't engage them, if they feel pushed to the sidelines or not thought about, that's how they're going to engage the rest of your evening. But when you get to make it a space where it's engaging and it's fun and it's safe and you feel like, oh, I'm okay to be here, that changes everything. And I think you can see that in relationships, right? Like when you can say like, dude, remember that time we threw that dodgeball and da-da-da-da-da? But it's like, that's never forgotten, right?
Yeah. How about remember that time when I threw the water balloon and hit the director in the head and almost got kicked out? Yeah, that's me. I remember that time, but that was a great shared experience that my best friend Carlin and I had together. It was amazing.
I remember that time we tried to play Battleship and then we used pans to protect people's heads and a water balloon launcher. Me too. Hey,
wait. I got to tell one more real quick. Remember the time when we were doing small group leader, they would go and hide and we had to find them. And one of my small group leaders somehow got up into like the attic of the church and came through the ceiling. Literally came through the ceiling. Yes. It was Holly Lingal. If she's listening to this, because I know they're volunteering and working in ministry, she's the best. And anyone from EC Lethbridge back in the day, you'll remember, literally came through the ceiling. I think her dad came and fixed the drywall for us in the ceiling after that one happened. Loved it.
That's amazing. I have a skylight story like that where a guy's literally butt and it looked like a butt shape in the skylight. And we were like, no. Anyway,
okay.
You know what we won't do for a great game and a great memory.
There it is. I love it so much.
Okay. So this is so much fun. We got to tell people, because you referenced that there are some volunteers that are prepping the game or setting it up, and so we should help them out. What are some great places that you like to send people, Lisette, when you think about resourcing for coming up with games?
I love the Source for Youth Ministry. It's just such an easy one. They have a whole search engine. You can put in the size of your group, the type of game you're looking for. So I love that.
We'll
download
that.
Youth Ministry. I think we all know that. Yeah.
Well, we don't all. I'm constantly amazed at meeting
that,
youth workers that don't know about.
That's actually true. That's
so we'll link
and
those two. That's great.
Yeah, and let me just say this about Download Youth Ministry. Download Youth Ministry is awesome if you have screens, like you're doing more kind of upfront, or you can have your screens drive the experience, so it makes it feel really like professional techie, but they're really engaged, active, and culturally aware too. Like it's pretty, it has a really unique dynamic. I would really send people to Download Youth Min for that stuff. I think it's great.
Grow Curriculum also has a game section, so we'll link that as well. And we're actually a partner with Grow. So if you want to get curriculum through Grow, we'll drop that link too. We know lots of folks that are using that these days, which is lots of fun. Okay, so there's lots of good places to find games. And we talked a little bit beforehand about some of what the best games actually do for the people that are here. So maybe we could just toss out a few of these frameworks so that people can be thinking about that if they're coming up with games. But we actually want to quickly move to what do you do as the volunteer to make the most of the games. So, but before we get there, I mean, the best games, honestly, I think they keep everybody engaged. You want everybody to either be watching, leaning in, they're excited about it, they're participating, and not opting a lot of folks out. So that's why, especially back in the day, just playing GoldenEye with the whole group wasn't helpful because it only involved 4 people. and like the 3 groupies that like to watch it, and then the rest of the people are disengaged. You want games that celebrate,
which, by the way,
not...
for some of our churches that were more committed to pacifism, GoldenEye became a real problem also. And trust me, I know that because that was a real conversation in our youth ministry back in the day. Real conversation.
Yeah, I bet.
Hey, Jer, I want to say this about keeping everyone engaged too.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, there's going to be times when you have students that just can't. Like maybe it's an active game, student's injured, they can't get there. There's all sorts of reasons why you might have a few kids on the side. I just want to say this. Number one, when you start moving to a critical mass on the side, that should tell you that maybe our activities need to be really assessed. If you have a few kids on the side, what I'm thinking is I want to have a couple of volunteers, or if you're a volunteer, you should just be aware of that and make sure they still feel celebrated, invited, a part of the community. And I'll often look for a leader who's maybe a little bit more like introverted, maybe not quite as active in some ways, and task them to be aware of those students and make sure that they still engage them and they feel like, oh, we love you, you're a part of this, even though this segment isn't like your favorite. So want to just add that to the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think, to be honest, you might be doing upfront games and not everybody's participating in it, but everybody can still be engaged if they're actually tracking with it. So I've had high school students that are like, oh, please keep letting us do those upfront games. We never want to participate in them, but we think that they're hilarious. And so as long as they're engaged in the process. We want the games that celebrate, not embarrass people. So, make sure that you're not isolating like this one person lost it for their whole team. And so now they're like the worst and their whole small group hates them because they drop the ball on the way. You know what I mean? Like
group shaming.
Exactly. Now, group shaming, we can shame groups of people. But we shouldn't be able to shame just like the one person that like dropped the ball on us.
Unless that one person is my son. So I actually just want to say this, and you're so right, Jaron. I love the distinction. We can shame groups. That's actually a good shared experience for them. It's us against the world, so that's a good thing. My boy went to the youth group here in Kelowna, which was a massive youth group. His love language was actually being like embarrassed up front in front of everybody. It's seriously. And the youth ministry actually said, hey, we got 3 kids that would really love this if we got them up there. They were smart. They really thought about it, and then they brought them up, and that actually kept my son coming back. Now, that can be terrifying for some others, so you got to watch that. But for my son, that actually was his love language. So I just want to add that caveat, but I would rather err on the side of caution to be honest about that one.
It's fair enough. Quick two last ones, and then we'll jump into ideas here. But
yeah,
games should always have some type of stakes. So like, there's a competition here. There's the winners get something, and you can set that into anything. The group we're running with tonight, we just said, oh, the small group that wins this competition tonight gets the best small group room with the couches, maybe some snacks, that kind of stuff. So whatever you can set as the stakes, and then they should reinforce community. Ideally, it's that hey, we get to do this as a group, and so then we get to have a shared experience. But no matter what the game is, no matter what the setup is, as a volunteer, how do you make the most of this time? Lisette, what would you say if you had a group of volunteers all together to make sure that they're making sure that they're making the most out of this time? What would you tell them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the very first thing outside of all of it is just you actually make or break it, right? Like you set the temperature for the game. So if you decide it's fun, it doesn't have to be fun. I used to tell my volunteers this all the time. I need you to decide this is the funnest game you've ever played. Every single time. I need you to just decide because they set the temperature, right? Like we have to make sure our leaders, our volunteers are the thermostat in the room, not the thermometer, right? Like you set the temperature. So if you set it to be a fun, engaging, welcoming space, it will be. So you just got to decide that. But I think your very first step in all of this, like after you've decided it's the best game ever, even when it's lame, I used to tell my leaders, tell me later it was lame, but while we're in it, I need you to act like it's the best game ever. Your role is just to invite everyone in. Like that's the best thing you can do as a volunteer is just to make it the most welcoming. Like every kid by name feels like, yo, Joe, are you getting in? Susie, are you in? Like just that sense of invitation that they know they're supposed to be a part of it and you're doing it with them.
Yeah. And then I think the next part is we want to engage fully. And that's part of what you've already said, actually, Lisette, is that, and I think this is especially for the leaders that we are, as leaders, we are immersed in it. and we're making sure we continue to look to immerse others in it. And I want to say this about a leader. Sometimes you have to lead from the front in a game, right? So that you have to be the one that puts yourself out there and that you're saying, come follow me, let's go do this. Sometimes you're pushing others out there. So you're kind of managing your group to make sure that everyone's included. You're kind of working from the back, and you have maybe a personality in your youth group that they'll gladly put themselves up front and kind of lead the way. That's awesome. So then you're working from the back. But I think you're just aware of that dynamic to make sure that our job is to get as many as possible into that space. That's what we're shooting for. This is building a shared experience for my community, my small group. And by the way, again, you might be a youth ministry of 10. Great, then that's your small group. That's the people that are part of this activity. You might split to twos, whatever, but we're getting full engagement. And then I love the third one, Lisette, is the idea of celebrate the memory, right? Find elements of the activity that you can continue to talk about later. And even if I'm a volunteer and I'm having an activity and something kind of unique, fun, a little out of the ordinary takes place, I'm kind of checking that in my brain. And I'm thinking, I want to come back to that with either my group or that student later to re-experience what took place.
100%. I think any of the times you can go dude, when you hit that, that was amazing. Or remember when so-and-so tripped, sorry about it. I don't know why.
Doesn't matter.
But I think there is something, it doesn't matter. These shared stories, the laughter, and I think knowing the culture of your group, right? I remember I had one small group of girls and their leader just knew their personalities so well. And they brought out the tutus every single week, for game time. And it just became this thing. That was how this group rolled up to game time. And it was so ridiculous. But that volunteer leader just knew their group and kind of knew what worked. There's groups, that love taking photos and they just want to post that thing, whatever it looks like. But to create that sense of just memory and we're in this together, is so incredible.
Hey, Lisette, I just want to reflect on that again, because when I was leading these back in our youth ministry, we didn't have things like Instagram and Snapchat and stuff like that. So when you're taking the photos and you're posting, you should also just be aware of back to that principle of celebrating, not embarrassing, right? So just be really aware of that anytime we do these things, that we are about celebrating and not embarrassing. And even when we think about recounting a memory, know your kids, because there's a certain, something may have happened that kid doesn't want recounted, even though everyone else thinks it's funny.
Correct.
So again, this is just about us being really aware of our kids, thinking about what's best for them and best for our community, and just using the wisdom that God's given us. That's why we're in those places. That's why we are the volunteer small group leader, to assess the situation that way.
Totally. I love that. Yeah, that's
all right.
Good.
So making the most out of the game time of our program. We want to invite everybody. We want to engage fully. We want to celebrate the memory. Any last words before we let people go here today, Lisette?
I just think leverage this time, right? It's so important, and you get to do something really fun. I know you said that earlier, Sid, but fun is kind of lost in our culture a lot of the time. So creating spaces where we can just really just play and have fun and laugh together is so good. And I think also you get to be an advocate for your students. You get to know your group of kids, and you can, if you're the one planning games, you can start figuring out the types of things that really work well with your students. Or you get to speak up towards your, leader and say, hey, you know what, my group is super unathletic. Can we try a game that, fed this type of a student? And you get to help create a space that is really welcoming and inviting to every type of kid.
That's so good. Anything from you, Sid, before we go?
No, I just affirm it. I love it. And I do think that this is such worthy time for our kids. Don't take it lightly. Don't just throw it off, but be intentional with it. And it'll really help shape the culture of your youth ministry.
That's great. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining with us today. And we look forward to continuing on to making the most of each part of our program. We'll continue on with the series next week. And until then, thanks so much for what you're doing. You truly are making an eternal difference in the lives of the next generation, and we are grateful for it. See you later.